Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you were slightly out of place? Like everyone else got the manual for how to be normal and you didn't? Like you notice things other people don't? You feel things more deeply than you probably should. You think about conversations long after they're over. You analyze tone, body language, hidden meaning. And no matter how hard you try to blend in, there's always this quiet awareness that you're different. Maybe people have labeled you too sensitive, too quiet, too intense, too emotional, too deep, too much. So at some point you started asking yourself a dangerous question. What's wrong with me? You tried adjusting, toning it down, laughing when you didn't find it funny, pretending not to notice what you clearly saw, acting less aware, less affected, less you. But what if the problem was never you? What if the reason you've always felt different isn't because you're broken, but because your mind works at a different depth? What if your sensitivity is actually heightened perception? Your intensity is cognitive complexity. Your emotional depth is psychological strength. Most people live on the surface, but some people are wired for layers. And when you're wired for layers in a surface-level world, it can feel isolating. In this video, we're breaking down 7 rare psychological traits that are often misunderstood. Traits linked to deep thinkers, emotionally intelligent individuals, and highly self-aware minds. If you've always felt like you don't quite fit in, if you've spent years wondering why you feel different, stay with me. Because by the end of this you might realize something powerful. You were never too much. You were just rare. Most people think in straight lines, you think in layers. When someone speaks, you don't just hear the words, you hear the hesitation, the shift in tone, the emotion underneath the sentence. When someone acts, you don't just react, you ask why. What led to that choice? What are they not saying? What's really going on here? You don't just experience moments, you analyze them. You replay conversations in your head. You revisit decisions. You connect past events to present behavior. And yes, sometimes it's exhausting. Sometimes you wish your brain had an off switch. Sometimes you envy people who can just move on without dissecting everything. But here's the truth. This isn't overthinking. It's called high cognitive processing. The ability to naturally analyze patterns, contradictions, emotional undercurrents, and long-term consequences. Your mind doesn't skim, it dives. While others accept things at face value, you instinctively look beneath the surface. You notice inconsistencies. You question narratives. You see the bigger picture and the hidden details inside it. Now there is a downside. You might struggle with indecision because you see too many angles. You might get stuck in analysis because your brain refuses to settle for simple answers. But the upside, you see what others miss. You understand complexity. You think independently instead of following the crowd. You don't outsource your judgment. In a world that rewards speed, your depth can feel like a burden. But depth creates clarity, and clarity creates power. Different isn't broken, it's depth. You don't just feel happy, you feel it in your chest, like it's radiating through every part of you. You don't just feel sad, you feel it in your bones, a weight that others might never notice. You absorb the energy in a room. You notice tension before anyone else does. You pick up on subtle emotional shifts that most people completely miss. This is called high emotional sensitivity. It's a rare trait often found in deeply perceptive, empathetic, and highly intuitive people. Growing up, you might have been told, "Stop overreacting. You're too sensitive. Don't make a big deal out of this." But here's the truth. You're not broken. You feel the world more vividly. Pain cuts deeper, yes, but so does joy. So does connection, beauty, and meaning. You don't skim life. You experience it in full. You weren't built to float on the surface. You were built to feel deeply, to sense the unseen, and to connect with the world in a way that most people can't. And that depth, it's a strength, not a flaw. In social situations, you're the one noticing the details others miss. Who's nervous? Who's dominating? Who's pretending to be something they're not? You read the energy of the room before anyone else does. Even as a child, you may have felt older than your age, like you were watching life unfold instead of fully being part of it. You saw patterns, motives, and hidden truths long before anyone explained them to you. This comes from developing advanced social awareness early in life, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes simply because your brain is wired to notice. Over time, this awareness becomes second nature. You don't just participate in reality. You analyze it, map it, and understand it. The downside: sometimes it can make you feel disconnected, like you're always slightly outside the group. The upside: you gain insight most people never do. You understand human behavior. You see motives and emotions clearly. You can predict actions and outcomes. Sometimes you even understand people better than they understand themselves. Being the observer isn't a weakness. It's a unique lens that gives you clarity, wisdom, and power that few others can access. Small talk drains you. "Nice weather today, huh? What do you do for work? Did you see that game last night?" You can participate if you have to, but it feels hollow, empty, superficial. You crave conversations that matter. You want to explore beliefs, fears, dreams, and life's deeper meaning. You want to talk about trauma, psychology, purpose, and the things that shape us. You're not antisocial, you're depth-oriented. Your mind is stimulated by substance, not surface chatter. Shallow conversation feels like noise, and yet when you meet someone who thinks the way you do, someone who's willing to go deep, everything changes. For the first time, you're not the intense one. You're not the one overanalyzing, overthinking, or feeling too much. You're understood. And that connection? It feels electric. Small talk may be easy for most, but for you, meaningful dialogue is fuel. It's where your mind thrives, your heart opens, and your true self finally comes alive. Rules have never impressed you. Titles don't intimidate you. Just because someone speaks with confidence doesn't mean you automatically accept it. You ask the questions most people avoid. Why is this the way it is? Who really benefits from this? What's the evidence? This isn't rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It's independent thinking. A trait of minds that refuse to accept things at face value. You don't outsource your judgment. You analyze, reflect, and form your own conclusions. Yes, this can make you seem difficult, hard to manage, even rebellious. But history shows us something important. Progress rarely comes from compliance. Innovation, breakthroughs, and meaningful change always begin with someone willing to question the norm. So if you've spent your life challenging authority, doubting conventions, or resisting pressures to conform, don't see it as a flaw. It's a sign that your mind is wired to think critically, independently, and creatively. You were never meant to follow blindly. You were meant to push boundaries, uncover truths, and see the world differently. And that perspective? It's a rare gift, one that can change everything.
This one hits deep. You can be surrounded by friends, family, co-workers, and still feel completely alone. Not because you don't care, not because you're distant, but because very few people truly understand you. You filter yourself, tone down your thoughts, simplify your feelings, hide the intensity that comes naturally to you. At first it feels necessary, but over time, it becomes isolating. Here's the truth. People with rare psychological traits often struggle to find others who match their intellectual and emotional depth. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You're wired differently, and that means you need connections that meet you on the same level. People who see your depth, honor your intensity, and value your perspective. And when you finally find someone who truly gets you, something magical happens. The loneliness disappears instantly. Because what you were missing all along wasn't more people, it was deeper connection. A connection where you don't have to filter, where your mind and heart are fully seen, where your rarity feels celebrated, not misunderstood. Feeling alone isn't a flaw. It's a sign that you're wired for connection that goes beyond surface-level relationships. You can't fake it. You can't pretend to like something you don't. You can't stand by silently when you see injustice. You can't betray your own principles just to fit in. You feel guilt deeply when you stray from your values. You reflect on your actions. You hold yourself accountable, even when no one else is watching. This is called high internal moral calibration. Your compass comes from within, not from social approval or external pressure. It guides your decisions, your relationships, and your actions. Yes, it can make life harder at times. It may have cost you friendships, opportunities, or social ease, but it also means you are internally aligned. Alignment is power. When your actions match your values, you operate from authenticity, not performance. You don't bend just to please others. You don't compromise your integrity for convenience. This inner moral strength sets you apart. It's rare. It's valuable. It's a signal that your life is guided by truth, not by what's easy or expected. The world may try to shape you, but your core remains unshakable. And that inner alignment? It's what ultimately gives you influence, resilience, and true freedom. Let's reframe something for a moment. You weren't too sensitive. You weren't too intense. You weren't too quiet, too deep, too different. You were rare, and rarity often feels isolating at first. It can make you feel like you don't belong, like you're constantly on the outside looking in. But isolation isn't a flaw. It's the early stage of strength. The world is built for average comfort, for surface-level interactions, for easy consensus. It's not built for people who feel deeply, think independently, and see life in layers. That doesn't mean you shrink to fit in. It means you refine yourself. You set strong boundaries. You seek relationships and connections that actually align with your mind and heart. You stop apologizing for the way you're wired. Once you truly understand yourself, something shifts. You stop trying to fix what was never broken. You stop bending to fit expectations that were never meant for you. And here's the magic. The moment you stop treating yourself like a flaw, the world begins to treat you differently too. Doors open. People respect your presence. Your voice carries weight. Your depth becomes your advantage. If this resonates with you, remember, you're not alone. You never were. There's a quiet power in being different, and when harnessed, it becomes your greatest strength. So embrace it. Lean into your depth. Celebrate your rarity. Because the very traits you thought made you too much are actually the traits that make you unstoppable. You weren't broken. You were exceptional all along.